Core Keeper has so many core gameplay mechanics and they all seem really well developed. It kind of baffles me that the game is in early access, but it feels so complete and bug-free. But is Core Keeper worth it in early access? Well, let's find out. One of the things you will be doing most often in Core Keeper is mining. You need ores to progress through the game, so mining is inevitable. You start off the game with some basic wood tool and then you craft your first crafting station. After that, you will be able to craft a tin crafting station and then an iron crafting station and finally the legendary Scarlet crafting station. Each time you get the next tier crafting station, you will unlock access to a bunch of new workbenches and thus unlock even more things to craft and progress through the game. There is an alchemy workbench, a cooking pot, several tiers of anvils, and even a workbench dedicated to crafting minecarts. But we will get to that in a second. All of the ores that you will need to progress through the game will be found in progressively harder areas with their own unique dangers. So the progression curve in this game feels really good. You could go to the higher level areas if you are brave and skilled enough to dodge the enemies that lay within. Or you can over-prepare and ravage your way through anything in your path. It's all up to you, but I can guarantee that each time you unlock the next tier of equipment, your character will drastically increase in strength. I went from a copper sword to a mighty battle axe, and I cannot even begin to explain the difference in power that the battle axe gave me. There are quite a few enemies in the game, so having really good weapons is kind of important. You start off by facing simple slimes, and then you will find these bugs. Yeah, this area is very creepy. These bugs rush at you when you take out your torch, and it's nightmare fuel. After that, you will find these mages and whatever these things are, and then you'll even find a giant. So yeah, this game is filled with unique enemies to put your skills to the test. If these enemies are not putting up much of a challenge, you need not worry because Core Keeper was released with 4 bosses. So far, I have only seen 2 of these bosses and I had a blast fighting them. First off, you will face against Glurch, the giant slime. This boss only has 1 attack. He jumps on you, but I won't lie, he is pretty tough for the first boss of a game. After defeating him, you will get an item that will allow you to invite someone to move in with you. More on that later. The next boss is a giant worm called Gorm the Destroyer. This boss constantly circles around the world and you will have to intercept this boss along its path. It will ignore you until you do some heavy damage. After you have found its attention, well, all I can say is good luck. He will not be happy with you interrupting his gallivanting. This is a hard boss, but defeating this boss is quite important because you will get an item that will get you another NPC to move in with you. Naturally, both of these bosses defeated me with ease until I prepared properly and learned their attack patterns. It almost feels like a Dark Souls game. You struggle against a boss and finally after defeating it, you feel so good. And I don't know, it's a great feeling of accomplishment. This game was released with 4 bosses and since it is in early access, I just know they have plenty more to release soon. I wonder what else they have up their sleeves. To properly prepare for the dangers of the underground world that is Core Keeper, you don't only need to craft the best armor and weapons, food is equally important in this game. Food will heal you, food will give you many different buffs that will be the difference between life and death. To cook food, just combine any 2 ingredients together. You heard me right, you can combine any 2 ingredients together to create a unique piece of food with its own benefits. There are already 5 types of growable crops in this game, and you can also find 4 different types of ingredients in the world, and you can catch 16 different types of food. So, since we can combine any of these together to make a cooked dish, there are already hundreds of different dishes that we can make in this game. And each time a new ingredient is added, the number of cooked dishes is exponentially increased. Now that is impressive. Some of the best ingredients in the game are obtained by farming. You will have to find and harvest crops around the world. These wild crops will drop both the actual crop as well as a seed that you can then use to plant close to your core. Farming is pretty simple in this game. You just hoe the ground, plant the seed, and then water it once. After some time, the crop will be ready for harvest. Then just harvest the crops and hope you get some seeds to replant. It's simple but effective. There is also a special crop that will grow and spread roots that you can break for wood. If you have a simple setup like mine over here, you can easily have an infinite amount of wood. Nice. This game has fishing, and I will admit that fishing is a nice distraction from defeating hordes of slimes and bugs. The fishing minigame does take a few tries to get used to, but it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. You just reel the fish in and predict when the fish goes red and then let go. It's simple and really rewarding. The fish I caught over here will create food that will give you an armor boost. A very good dish against those hard-hitting mobs and bosses. Okay, let's talk about NPCs. The NPC mechanic in this game is very similar to Terraria. You build them a little house, place a bed in that house, and then place down some rare item that will then allow the NPC to move in. The NPCs act mostly as merchants. The first NPC has pretty basic stuff to sell, but the second NPC has some really interesting items up for sale if you have the gold. Okay, I need to show you this. It's awesome. The world in this game is absolutely massive. And even with cooked food that increase your movement speed, it can still take you forever to get around. But the game has a solution for us. The second tier workbench will allow you to craft both minecarts as well as the tracks that the carts run on. It's not that expensive to craft, so you can quite easily place down long tracks that can take you straight to your desired destination. It's much faster than running, and it's very satisfying. And it can even take corners. This is an S tier addition to the game. The game also supports multiplayer with up to 8 characters, so play with your friends. But you absolutely do not need to play this game with people. You can progress and do everything all on your own. I saw a couple Steam reviews saying that the game is unplayable solo, but that is absolutely not the case. You can definitely play this game solo, and it doesn't have to be a huge grind. It all depends on how you want to play the game. And that is the Core Keeper. It's a fun game. You won't be able to sleep because each tier of progression is right in your grasp, and you will be telling yourself, let me just get that tin workbench. And after getting it, you will just have to craft that tin anvil, and it never ends. What do you think of Core Keeper? Please let me know in the comments below. But for now, I will see you in the next video.